guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about interview tips for new medical billers and coders. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, so I have been a medical coder for 16 years. And in this time, I've been hired at a few places to be a medical coder. So I remember what it's like to be brand new. I have been on social media for as long, right? And I've seen some posts lately on social media that give me a little bit of pause because y'all are asking the wrong questions. And by that, I mean, I did see a question where somebody said, do we always have to wear a suit to an interview? You should always wear nice clothes, okay? Period. It doesn't matter that other people are wearing jeans and t-shirts and scrubs. That does not matter. You dress for the job that you want. And when you dress nicely, when you dress appropriately for going for an interview, right? So even if it's just slacks, a nice blouse, or a nice button down if you're a gentleman, you know, a jacket, that is totally fine. Something that is appropriate for the office. Now that is going to make a great first impression. Somebody that comes in looking nicely dressed is going to turn my head. It's going to make me say, okay, this person is here and they're serious about what they want to do for us in this organization. Because it's not just you interviewing with this interviewer. This interviewer is looking at you to say, okay, this person has to be able to get along with this doctor. They have to be able to get along with this administrator. They have to be able to get along with my other coders. You know, so I need somebody who's going to come in and make a really good first impression. And having the wherewithal to dress nicely when you're going in for an interview is the key first thing, right? And so that should never ever be a question. You always dress nicely. And if you say, well, Blue, you know, money's kind of tight right now. I don't have money to get new clothes or anything. If you live near a major city, there is always going to be somebody, a church or another organization or, you know, another nonprofit that will want to help. There is Dress for Success, which has a place in almost every major city. And Dress for Success was the ones that helped me when I first started out. They gave me a whole outfit. They gave me some makeup. They gave me shoes so that I could go out and have a really good first impression on an interview. This should not be something that y'all fuss about, because trust me, there's a lot of other things that you should be focused on, and this should not be one of them. This should be a default. When you're going out there, dressing nicely and presenting yourself well is the very first step to getting your foot in the door. Because even though people say, well, we shouldn't be judged on the way we look, that's not the society that we live in, okay? Period. We are going to get judged on the way that we look. And any time that you're out and you notice when you're out and you're dressed really nicely, people treat you differently. It is no different when you're applying for a job. Because believe me, if I'm interviewing people and the people that come to me, if there's somebody that's coming to me in dark wash jeans, I don't care if they have no holes in them. I'm not calling that person back. Because first of all, you walked into my office inappropriately dressed for this interview. I don't care that there's other people around who have said, oh yeah, you can wear dark wash jeans. No, you wear slacks, you wear a skirt, or you wear a dress. Any one of these, you know, dress appropriately for the interview. You do not walk in with dark wash jeans. You never go in with holes in jeans at all either, because you shouldn't even be in jeans, all right? Everything needs to be appropriate for that setting. And it doesn't matter what other people are doing. You need to concentrate on yourself. There's too many people out there who are concerned about what other people are doing and not paying attention to themselves, not paying attention to how they're coming off, right? So dressing nicely is first. No perfume, no cologne, nothing with excessive smell. Because again, that's another thing you're going to be judged on. You know, sometimes like when you go to work in the morning and you're walking into the building and you can smell somebody's perfume or cologne and you just like, you're drinking it because you can, it's so strong. You never want to be that person in an interview, because that'll guarantee that you do not get hired. So no perfume, no cologne, nothing that has a heavy smell to it, okay? Because first of all, you shouldn't be having that much on to begin with. To appropriately put on perfume, you spray it into the air and you walk into it once. I don't know why people insist on dousing themselves in it, because that's not the appropriate way to put perfume or even cologne on. I'm just saying. So with that said, no perfume, no cologne, none of that, all right? They need to remember you, not what you smell like and not what you look like, right? They need to be impressed with what you look like, obviously, nicely dressed, but they don't need to be, oh my gosh, that perfume on that lady was so strong. Oh no, we can't hire her because it doesn't matter if she passed, because I can't have that smell. There's a lot of people that are very sensitive to smells. So no, and especially when you work in healthcare, because we're around patients, you cannot have perfume or cologne on anyway, because it can affect the patients. And even if you're working at home, that when you go in for the interview, that's not where you need to be wearing all that stuff, okay? So just keep it simple. A nice, simple outfit and no perfume, no cologne, all right? So that's my advice on that one. No gum chewing when you're in this interview. Keep the gum out of your mouth. If you need a mint, have a mint before the interview. And a lot of people will talk about how nervous they are during the interview, that they start excessively sweating. What you can do to mitigate that before you go into this interview is to do a little brisk walk before you leave for your interview. So that way you're not sweaty as soon as you get there and you decide to do a brisk walk. Do a brisk walk before you get ready for your interview, then get ready for your interview, and then go. And trust me, that will bring your nerves down. It really will bring your nerves down, because, just expending that energy is going to help you. Because a lot of times people will get so wrapped up in their head and in their mind about this interview, and they need to ace this interview, and they need to do all these things, not really thinking that this is just an interview. They just need to see if you're going to have that right chemistry for their organization, and you're going to be able to show what you know. And you're not going in there with no knowledge of the process of coding, okay? You are going in there with knowledge on how to code. It's just a matter of this is your first job, which leads me to my next tip, is to not harp on the fact that you don't have experience. The person that's saying, I don't have experience and I don't have training, that's the person I'm not going to call. I will not call that person, period. Why? Because this person needs their hand held. I don't want to hold hands. I need somebody who's going to say, yes, if asked, yes, I am new, but I did get this training, so I am familiar with all of these things. I know how to do my research. That's a big thing. You have to be able to be self-motivated. You have to be able to know how to do your research. And research is as simple as doing Google. You just type in whatever question you have, and trust me, there will be plenty of articles and sometimes videos that pop up that will help you to answer your question. But if you need a little bit more in-depth, then that's when you go and you ask somebody. But don't make your default going to immediately ask somebody, all right? If they know that you're a good researcher because you tell them, you know how to use the coding guidelines, you know how to look up CPT assistant and coding clinic, that's going to really make a good impression for you and on you, as far as like, okay, this candidate really, has a lot of potential. And that's what you want to show. You don't want to show that, basically that you're lazy and you don't want to try. You have to try, okay? And it's nobody's responsibility to hand you an opportunity. You have to tell them why you would make a good candidate, all right? And it all starts with, of course, a good first impression, all right? Nice clothes and a nice presentation of yourself, a good firm handshake. Please don't ask me about the handshakes. Handshakes are very simple and straightforward. You look at the person square in their eye, you get their hand and you shake it, not this little dead fish crap. You need to shake their hand, all right? There's plenty of videos on there about how to shake hands on YouTube. But a good firm handshake, not one that you're going to break the person's hand, but a nice firm handshake would be great, okay? Because again, you're being judged on that as well. Yes, you are immediately being judged on how you're carrying yourself and your character and, all of these things. You are being judged. So keep that in mind. But if you've done these extra steps to calm yourself, as far as like going for that brisk walk before you get ready for your interview, showing up early for your interview, 15 minutes is great. So that way you are right on time. Because that shows that you have some respect for that other person's time. They are meeting with you. And sometimes they're doing a bunch of interviews all at one time. So again, be patient and it will be your turn. Know where you are applying. If I am an interviewer and I ask you, okay, the hospital that, the person that this hospital is named after, can you tell me about them? And if you sit there and say, yeah, and you didn't put that in your notes, because you can have notes with you. And I strongly recommend that, is to bring a notepad with all of your questions that you have for this interviewer, right? Because you will be asking the interviewer questions. You will be asking the interviewer questions. There's a lot of times people will say, oh no, I think we covered everything, when the interviewer asks, do you have any questions for us? And you say, no, that's it. Or they start asking about leave. They start asking about, what are these other things, basically the beneficial things to the person, instead of what other things will they learn, what is expected of them after 90 days, that kind of thing. Those kind of things are geared towards the organization, and that's what they want to hear. That's what they like. But if you can't tell me who the hospital is named after and why, I'm not calling you back. If you don't know basic acronyms like HIPAA, I'm not calling you back either, okay? Those are basic things that you have to know. And these are the things that they're going to be asking you. They may ask you lots of questions. I have been asked, they give you an assessment test, obviously, that you have to fill out. But sometimes they give you an assessment test right then and there. They just ask you questions. Sometimes if you want to bring your books with you, you absolutely can. It shows that you have, that you're being prepared, which is always great. And sometimes that's what they need to see. They don't need to always have to tell you everything. If you're showing up already prepared, again, that's going to be another positive mark for you, because they're judging you on everything, okay? So make sure that if you are bringing your coding books with you, if you have a couple of years back, because that's all you have, that is all you have. But at least it's an effort. And at least you're showing, yes, I'm showing up with older books, but that's okay. If they're asking you basic questions, they need to see how you're navigating in these manuals, okay? That's what it is. If you don't have coding manuals, don't worry about it, all right? But I'm talking about those who do have their coding manuals, all right? Because you may need them for this interview, and you may not. They may be right there, but you showed that you are prepared for anything. And again, don't think that's not going to go unnoticed, all right? So always have a list of questions too that you're going to ask. Now, these list of questions is going to be specific to that role. You can ask them, what does success look like for this role? What is going to be expected of you? And again, if they cover all of these things, these basic things, then you can talk about other things like, what about continuing education units? You can ask them about that. Do y'all go to conference and things like that? Those are things that you can ask your interviewer, because again, this is a conversation, and it shouldn't be so nerve-wracking that you are excessively sweating and that you're so nervous or you're mumbling. You never mumble, okay? Always be clear with your speech. Always be clear when you're talking to them. If somebody's speaking to you, then you look directly at them. Never be shy, because sometimes, I know it's a little bit easier said than done to not be shy, because everybody gets shy. But when you're in these interviews, just be prepared that it may be a panel interview, okay? There may be a few people in this interview. Sometimes it's 3 people and you, and sometimes it's 4 people and you. So they're going to have different points of view, and they're going to ask you different questions. So be as respectful as you can. Yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, that kind of thing. Or however they want to be addressed, that's totally fine. But just be respectful. Use good manners, right? Don't say yeah, nope, yes, no, yes, no. And never answer a question with just one word. Always expand on whatever it is that they're asking, all right? That's something you got to keep in mind. You're always looking for full answers that are totally going to respond to the question. And if they say, well, you have no experience, you can tell them, that is true, but I do have training. And I learned all of these things. Talk about what you learned, all right? Don't complain about anything. People who complain about prior bosses or the school that they attended, how fast it was and that kind of thing, those are the people that are not going to be called back. Because again, they're looking at how do you respond to adversity? How do you respond to these things? And you can say, well, my program was accelerated, but I did take additional time to self-study. I did this, I worked from this workbook and that workbook. Those are the things that you want to say specifically, because that's going to show, again, that you went above and beyond and that you know how to handle an adversity. You know how to handle when a challenge comes at you, all right? You don't want to be a shrinking violet, all right? And say, oh no, I need my handheld, I need this, I need training, I want to be trained. No, because then you won't get hired, guys. You won't get hired. And you absolutely can do this, especially if you have passed your certification exam. You know, these certification exams are no easy feat. So passing, because it is good, right? But it doesn't mean that the studying stops. People who stop studying, of course, they're going to know really quick the difference between somebody who's continuing to study and somebody who just passed the certification and then stopped studying. They will be able to tell the difference, okay? So those are the things that you want to think about when you're going into these interviews and putting your best foot forward. The other thing that I will keep saying, and I will keep saying this because I keep seeing it, LinkedIn. Let's talk about LinkedIn a little bit. So LinkedIn is where a lot of your future coworkers are going to be. Your future bosses, the future organizations you're going to be working for, they are all on LinkedIn. And nothing is sacred on LinkedIn. So if you are on LinkedIn, and let's just say, for example, your contact photo is with some wild color hair, or you don't look like you're taking the jobs that you're applying for very seriously, or you have like a really just a sad look on your face where you're not smiling at all, you look really serious. Those points count. Don't think they don't. So if your picture looks like that, you need to have a picture where you're smiling or where you look pleasant. That's what you need to have as your contact photo. It needs to be something simple of you. It doesn't need to be all these wild hair colors and all kinds of things. Now, people are going to disagree with me, and that's totally fine. Well, that's just how I am, and that's my personality. But you're working with professionals. This is what I keep trying to drive home to you guys. You're working with professionals. Blue hair, pink hair, purple hair, that's ridiculous. And it doesn't belong in the professional work environment. So don't do that. If you want to have your hair all of those kind of different colors, that's totally fine. If you're an artist or if you're something like that, something along those lines in those kinds of professions, that's totally great. But you want to be taken seriously, especially when you're new. Now, when you've had some time in and you make a name for yourself and you're doing all of these things and you want to have all of these wild hair colors, you, by all means, you go right ahead. I still don't think that that's right, but you go right ahead. But when you're brand new, you need to have the best face forward as possible that you can, because you don't want to be dismissed for something like that. Now, if you ask me about tattoos, There's a lot of people who always say, well, Blue, I'm kind of nervous because, I have tattoos, but I cover them up. That's totally fine. A lot of people have tattoos, okay? But keep them covered. And if you have that's on you, and you keep it covered, that's totally fine. But don't sit there and be shocked and surprised when you're not getting calls, but your LinkedIn profile is you showing off all of your tattoos and wild hair color, or just looking really mad in your contact photo. That's the thing, guys. Don't think that these employers are not looking at your social media accounts either, okay? Because they do. Because they need to know about you. They need to know, are we hiring a good candidate? Is this person going to be able to take this job seriously? And the other thing about LinkedIn, a lot of you think, and especially my new people, well, I'm looking for a job, but I'm so discouraged. That's the person I'm not hiring. I won't hire you. I won't. And there's a lot of people who think the same way. Why? Because you're being negative. And not only that, you're airing your negativity on a platform. These people are going to be your co-workers. Your co-workers. You want to complain about being discouraged because you can't find a job. You call your mama, you call your daddy, you call your sister, you call your brother, you call your friend, your cousin, anybody else, the church lady, you call anybody else. You do not put it on LinkedIn. You never complain on LinkedIn. And it does not matter how many other people are doing that. You don't do it. You make sure that when you're communicating anything on LinkedIn, that it is positive or it is relevant to the industry. If you learned something, talk about that. If you are studying and you came across some kind of guideline or something that you thought was interesting, share that. Talk about that. But do not talk about the fact that I'm so discouraged, I can't find a job. This is ridiculous. I passed my exam 2 months ago and I'm still looking for a job. Congratulations. There's a lot of people who spend months looking for a job. Why? Because they don't have tips, right? The tips where they say, oh, this is how you got to do it. 1-page resume. Oh, Blue, I don't really like to write resume. It doesn't matter what you like. It does not matter what you like. Anybody can write their own resume. Believe it or not, anybody can write their own resume. And it's on 1 page. 1 page is not going to hurt you to write. You go back 10 to 15 years on your resume. You talk about your jobs. And if they're not relevant to health information, that's okay. Because trust me, there's going to be some kind of transferable skill. Believe me, they are there if you are looking. And a lot of you don't look because you'd rather get discouraged right away. And you'd rather be on LinkedIn crying because you can't find a job. Well, I'm telling you how you can find a job. You are very direct with your professional objective. Yes, you got to have that professional objective on your resume. And don't tell me that, oh no, that heard so and such. I'm a professional resume writer, okay? I write resumes. Now, I don't have any availability until September of 2024. But I will tell you guys that in the resumes that I've done, that has been a very successful practice. Not a professional summary, but a professional objective, because you have no experience or very little experience as a coder. And so you need to say specifically what is the job title that you are looking to apply for and why. Very quickly, okay? 2 to 3 sentences at most. Mostly 2 or 3 sentences you got to go with. But make everything on your resume concise. Make it very clear. And with these jobs, like you worked at Dollar General. Okay, cool. Well, what did you do at Dollar General? You stocked. You did stocking. Okay, great. Well, guess what you have to do as a stocker? You have to be able to check the inventory list. You have to be able to mark those off. You have to be able to match numbers and match the product to whatever it is that you're signing off on or stocking on the shelves and keeping tabs and quantities of different items and things and looking to see what else needs to be ordered so you can keep everything up to date. Working with letters and numbers is very important as a medical biller or a medical coder. So think about that. That's something that you can put onto your resume. Avoid paragraphs. You want to put bullet points when you're talking about your duties, okay? And don't make your duty list, all the things that you did at that job, do not make it 50,000 items saying the same thing. I've seen a lot of people do that. And it's on their resume is 3 or 4 or 5 pages. And then they're like, I don't know why no one's calling me. Because your resume is immediately going into the trash. Why? Because no one's going to sit here and read 3 to 4 or 5 pages, especially when they have hundreds sometimes of people, hundreds of people submitting their resumes. They need somebody who's going to be quick, concise, and to the point. Your name has to have your credentials. If you do not put your credentials on your name, again, another reason why you're being rejected. Because you're not telling us right away who you are. What credentials do you have? Because the credentials that you have say what you know or say what you were tested on that you showed a competency in. All right? So make sure that you are doing that. If you have not taken your test yet and you are eligible, do not put that on your name. Do not put RHIA eligible, CCS eligible, CPC eligible, because again, if you do not possess those credentials, you should never be carrying those credentials on your name. Okay? You do not put those on your name until you fully have them. It doesn't matter that you're eligible. Anybody could be eligible for any of those credentials. But you only put it on your name when you possess it, when you've taken the test and you've passed. And if you don't believe me, there's the AHIMA Code of Ethics that everybody follows. Everybody follows this. And it talks about the credentials. Okay? I'm just saying. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up because it's getting a little long. But don't complain on LinkedIn. Dress nicely. And yes, don't ask again about that. Because when you're out there asking, oh, well, do we have to? Can we just wear jeans? No, t-shirt? Oh, because other people, doesn't matter. The other people are doing their thing. You're not in yet. You need to get in. And then later on, if that's the dress code for that place, then by all means, but you still shouldn't do it. But that's just my opinion, okay? Just because everybody else does it doesn't mean that you need to do it too. I'm just saying. So with that said, I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.